Hare Krishna. So, very warm welcome to all of you for today's session on the Bhagavad Gita. We'll start our session with the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, in the previous session, we concluded the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and today we'll be starting with the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. From chapter 1 to chapter 6 forms the first part of the Bhagavad Gita, and then from chapter 7 to chapter 12 forms the second part of the Bhagavad Gita. So now we'll be moving to the second part of the Bhagavad Gita. But till now, we covered till the 6th chapter, because you see, we began the first chapter, and in the first chapter, Lord Krishna we discussed that how the battlefield of Kurukshetra was arranged, and we discussed the Arjun's dilemma and the moroseness of Arjun, how Arjun was so morose and dejected. So the dejection of Arjun, the sadness of Arjun, because he saw that his own people are standing against him and he has to fight against them. So that was the first part, that was the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And then the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna begins by saying that Arjun, you are not this body, you are a spirit soul. So you should not worry about people who are dead and people who are alive, because you are not this body, you are a spirit soul. And then Lord Krishna talks about different characteristics of the spirit soul in the second chapter. And of course, second chapter had many more topics. In fact, second chapter is basically concise version of many topics in the Bhagavad Gita. And then in the last part of the second chapter, we discussed about Sthit Pragya. What are the symptoms of a self-realized person? Lord Krishna talks about that. Then we came to the third chapter. Now, third chapter was all about yajna, sacrifices, and how we transcend all our karmic reactions just by performing yajna. And we discussed what is the meaning of yajna. Yajna means any activity in this world which we do for pleasure of Krishna, that is called yajna. And that's what Lord Krishna says in the third chapter. Yajnarthat karmanonyatra loko yam karma bandhana. That Arjun, you should mold your life in such a way that your whole life is yajna, and all your activities are done as a sacrifice for the Supreme Lord Krishna. Otherwise, you will get bound by karmic reactions. So that was the first part of the third chapter. And then in the middle part of the third chapter, Lord Krishna also talks about great personalities. They work for setting example for the general public. And then the last part of the third chapter, Arjun asks a question to Lord Krishna, that why is it that I am helplessly, it looks as if I am being forced to act sinfully. I am helpless. So then Lord Krishna answers that question of Arjun by saying that Kam esha krodha esha rajo gun samudbhavaha, that lust and anger, which are born from mode of passion, They are the greatest enemy of a living entity. And then Lord Krishna gives the solution also, that Arjun, how you should get over it. So what we discuss in many of our sessions, Lord Krishna talks about the 4 platforms of existences. The lowest is the bodily platform, above is the mental platform, then above mental platform is intellectual platform, and the highest is spiritual platform. So Lord Krishna in the last shloka of the 3rd chapter tells Arjun that, Arjun, you should raise yourself from bodily platform to spiritual platform, and through higher platform you should control the lower platform. Then we move to the 4th chapter. Now in the 4th chapter is all about divine knowledge. And Lord Krishna begins that 4th chapter by saying that in the beginning I spoke this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to the sun god. Then sun god Vivaswan, he spoke to his son Vaivasvat Manu. Then Vaivasvat Manu spoke to his son Maharaj Ikshvaku. And in this way, through chain of disciplic succession, this knowledge has been transmitted from one person to another, or from one acharya or one spiritual master to his disciple. Now, Arjun became confused. So Arjun asked the question in the 4th chapter that, Krishna, you are saying that you spoke this knowledge to sun god, but how is it possible? Sun god is much, much more senior to you by birth. So then Lord Krishna in the 4th chapter revealed his position to Arjun. He said, yes, Arjun, I have also taken many births and you have also taken many, many births. But I remember everything and you have forgotten everything. Why? So that also Lord Krishna says, Ajopi san navyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swamadhishthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. So he says that I am unborn and my transcendental body, my divine body never deteriorates like material body. I never change my body. So you have forgotten everything because material people, they change their material body. But the Supreme Lord, he never changes his material body. And then Lord Krishna says that Bhutanam Ishvaropisan, I am the Lord of every living entity. So in the 4th chapter, Lord Krishna for the first time declares that I am the Supreme Lord. Then in the 4th chapter, we also discussed about the 5 aspects of Yajna, and all the 5 aspects of Yajna, they ultimately attain mercy of the Lord, or they ultimately attain spiritual position. And also in the 4th chapter, we discussed about the importance of spiritual master. In the 34th shloka, Lord Krishna talks about it, that how do we receive divine knowledge? So Lord Krishna says there that tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So first we approach in a humble position, we approach our spiritual master, then we ask questions from him, and then we render seva, we render service to our spiritual master. And in this way, when our spiritual master is pleased with us, when Guru is pleased with us, then he blesses us with Diksha. And in this way, divine knowledge gets transmitted from Guru to his disciple. Then we move to the 5th chapter. And in the 5th chapter, Lord Krishna talks about Nishkam Karma Yoga. That means how we have to perform our activities also, but still we have to be detached from those activities. How we can work in a detached manner. And that can happen only when we engage in loving devotional service to Krishna. And in the last shloka of the 5th chapter, Lord Krishna reveals his position, his transcendental divine position, where he says that Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shanti Mrichati. So Lord Krishna says in the last shloka of the 5th chapter that I am the supreme proprietor I am the supreme enjoyer and I am the supreme well-wisher. And one who knows this, Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati, he attains supreme peace. And then we came to the 6th chapter. And in the beginning of the 6th chapter, Lord Krishna talks about sannyas and yoga. And Lord Krishna says that both are same. Then he talks about the process which people used to follow 5,000 years back. People used to go to the forest, then they would have to find a suitable place for themselves. Then they would have to lay kushagrass and sit on the seat, select a suitable place, and then be seated there. And then they have to put their head, neck, and their body in a straight line and not close the eyes. They have to see the tip of the nose. Why? To control the mind. But why they need to control the mind? And that also we discussed. The goal is to focus and meditate. And that means to focus the mind on Krishna. That was the whole purpose. All this was performed just to focus the mind on Krishna. But then Arjun, we discussed in the 6th chapter, he rejected this process. When Lord Krishna was talking about this process, Arjun, he said that Krishna, I'll not be able to follow this process because it is not practical for me. Why? Because chanchalam hi mana Krishna, because mind is very restless and unsteady, and to control the mind is more difficult than controlling the wind. And then Lord Krishna says, yes, Arjun, you are right. Mind is very difficult to control. But by practice, you can attain detachment. And then finally, Arjun asked this question that, okay, Krishna, but what if a person engages in loving devotional service, engages in bhakti, but he is not able to complete his bhakti and he falls down or he dies? What will happen to him? Will his bhakti get destroyed? So then Lord Krishna answers this question of Arjun by saying that no, Arjun, even if a person has performed little devotional service, his bhakti will remain intact in the next life. After his death, that person will go to upper planetary systems. He'll enjoy there for many millions and billions of years. And after that, he'll be born on earthly planet, either in a very cultured family or in a very rich family, or if he's very, very fortunate, if he has performed less devotional service in the past life, say 10%, then he is born in a rich family. If he has performed little more devotional service, say 50-60%, then he is born in a cultured family. And if he has performed, he has completed his bhakti, almost attained complete success, say 90%, then he is born in the family of a great pure devotee. And Lord Krishna says that such a birth is rarest, the most rare birth in this whole creation. Okay. And then finally Lord Krishna tells Arjun that, Arjun, that's why you should become my devotee. And he says, Tasmad yogi bhavarjuna, you should become a yogi. And then Lord Krishna gives the definition of a yogi in the last shloka of the 6th chapter, where he says that the greatest yogi, Arjun, is a bhakti yogi. All the yoga processes are meant to make us a bhakti yogi. So the greatest yogi is a bhakti yogi, and Lord Krishna tells Arjun that, Arjun, you should become my devotee, my bhakt, my bhakti yogi. So basically, the 6th chapter is the transition, our transition from other yoga processes to bhakti yoga. And now from the 7th chapter, the bhakti yoga part begins. So bhakti yoga part begins in the 7th chapter and it goes on till the 12th chapter. So very, very special part. We are entering into the second part of the Bhagavad Gita. Very, very special. So we'll begin our discussion today with the first shloka of the 7th chapter. Now 7th chapter is very special And the name of the 7th chapter is also Material and Spiritual Energies of Krishna. So in the 7th chapter, Lord Krishna talks about his divine potencies. So we'll discuss that as we move ahead. So we'll begin our discussion with text 1, shloka number 1 of the 7th chapter. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Mayyasakta Manah Partha Yogam Yunjanmadashrayah Asanshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Gyasyasi Tashrinu. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Mayyasakta Manah Partha Yogam Yunjanmadashrayah Asanshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Gyasyasi Tashrinu. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, said, "Listen from me, O Parth, how by practicing this process of union with me, with your mind attached to me and taking complete shelter in me, you'll be able to understand me fully without any doubt." Now you see, very important shloka. So what is Lord Krishna saying here? So Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Shri Bhagavan Vacha means, now Lord Krishna, Vacha means to speak. So Lord Krishna has started to speak. So what is he saying? Mai asakt. Asakt means to be attached. So Mai means to me. So Mai asakt, that means attached to me. Manaha Partha. Manaha means the mind. And Parth means Arjun. So Lord Krishna is telling that Arjun, your mind will be attached to me. When? You see the next part. Yogam yunjan mad ashrayah. Yogam. Yogam means union with Krishna. Yog means union with Krishna. Right? So Lord Krishna is telling that yogam, the process of union with me, or the process of yoga, which I will tell you, Arjun, yunjan. Yunjan means to be engaged. To be engaged in that process. Mad ashraya. Ashraya means shelter. So Lord Krishna is telling that Arjun, the process of yoga which I am going to tell you, if you take to this process of yoga under my shelter, you see, what is Lord? Union Mad Ashraya. Mad Ashraya means under my shelter. So if you follow this process of yoga under my shelter, you will take my shelter and you'll be attached to me. Maya Sakta Mana. Your mind will be completely attached to me. You will take my shelter and asanshayam samagram mam. Asanshayam. Sanshaya means doubt. And asanshayam means no doubts. Samagram mam. Samagram means complete. Yatha gyasyasi. Gyasyasi means knowledge. So asanshayam samagram mam. Mam means me. Yatha gyasyasi. You will be able to know me. Samagram. Samagram is completely. Asanshayam, without any doubt. And tashrinu. Tashrinu means now hear from me. So if we sum up this shloka, what is Lord Krishna saying here? That Arjun, the process of yoga which I am going to teach you, if you follow this process, your mind will be completely attached to me. You'll be completely under my shelter and you'll be able to know me completely without any doubt. Now listen from me. Now hear from me that process. So what is the meaning of this process? What Lord Krishna is telling here, the process of God realization, the process of Krishna realization. So Lord Krishna indirectly is telling Arjun, because that, if you remember in the previous session we discussed that what is the goal of all the Vedas? We discussed in the previous session that in the 15th chapter, the 15th shloka of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that Vedaischa sarvairaham vivedyo. All the Vedas are written to know me. The purpose of all the Vedas is to attain love for me, is to know me. Right? So all the Vedic scriptures are meant to know Krishna, to know about Krishna, to develop loving relationship with Krishna. That is the purpose of all the yoga, all the Vedic scriptures, isn't it? So Lord Krishna, that's what is telling here. Indirectly, he is telling that Arjun, if you follow this process, you will become God realized or Krishna realized, right? So, and then he says, Tashrinu, hear from me this process. So, this is the process of understanding the Bhagavad Gita. Tashrinu, Shrinu means to hear. And that is why you see in most of our sessions, we discuss about this, that it's very important. Shravanam. Shravanam means Shrinu. Shrinu and Shravanam both are coming from the same root word. And the meaning is to hear. So, Bhagavad Gita can only be understood by Shravanam, by hearing from the spiritual master. That is the process. No one can understand the Bhagavad Gita by reading the book. No. Because that is not the process. You see how Arjun is understanding the Bhagavad Gita. Is he reading a book? No, he is hearing from his Guru, Krishna. Right? That is how all our acharyas have received this knowledge, through Shravanam, through hearing from Guru. That is the process. So, Bhagavad Gita can never be understood by reading the book. It's very difficult, almost impossible. In fact, that is not the process. The process is Shravanam or hearing. And that's what Lord Krishna is telling here. Tashrinu, hear from me. The process of God realization. So, basically, Lord Krishna is trying to tell Arjun that Arjun, I'll tell you the science of God, because Bhagavad Gita is a great science. Bhagavad Gita or Bhakti is a science. It's not some theory. No. Bhagavad Gita is a science. It's a systematic knowledge. It's not some dogmatic knowledge. No. It's a great science. And that science of God is being there is a discussion or there is a description of how to understand the science of God in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, what is Srimad Bhagavatam? So, Bhagavad Gita is knowledge par excellence. Why? Because Bhagavad Gita, as the name says, Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad means Krishna or Bhagavan, and Gita means the song. So, Bhagavad Gita is the song sung by God. That means Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna directly. It's not, because you see, Vedic scriptures are divided into Shruti, Smriti, and Puran. Okay. So Bhagavad Gita is divided into Shruti, Smriti, and Puran. Shruti means what has been heard. That is called Shruti. Okay. Smriti means I have heard something and then I recollect it from my memory and then I write it. That is called Smriti. And Puran means Itihas or history. So Bhagavad Gita is neither Shruti, nor Smriti, nor Puran. None of these. So Bhagavad Gita does not fall in the Vedic knowledge. It does not come under the purview of the Vedic scriptures. Although many people, sometimes people call it Gita Upanishad or it's a part of Vedic scriptures, but no. You see, so many times in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says to Arjun, we have discussed it in the second chapter, since the second chapter. So many times Lord Krishna has told Arjun that Arjun, Bhagavad Gita is beyond the Vedas. It is transcendental to the Vedas. Right? So Bhagavad Gita is not a part of the Vedas. It is knowledge par excellence. No knowledge can be compared to the Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because this is spoken by Krishna directly. So Bhagavad Gita, what happened? How Bhagavad Gita has reached us? So basically Lord Krishna was speaking and Ved Vyas or Vyasdev, he was writing. So it's a transcription. Suppose I am speaking and all of you are making notes word by word. So that is called transcription. So Bhagavad Gita is, it's not that someone has heard and written. No, it is a transcription of what was spoken by Krishna. That is the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is beyond any other scripture. So Bhagavad Gita is considered to be the greatest scripture. And amongst the Vedic scriptures, there is Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that Vidya Bhagavatavadhi, the greatest knowledge is the knowledge of Bhagavatam. Why? Because as we know that Vyasdev or Ved Vyas, he has compiled all the Vedic scriptures. But his highest compilation or his greatest realization in his highest spiritual maturity, the scripture which he has written is Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam is why it is considered to be the greatest scripture amongst the Vedic scriptures, because it is written by Vyasdev in his highest spiritual maturity, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest realization of Vyasdev. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is description of the signs of God, right? The signs of God. So what is the signs of God? So it begins, there are 3-4 shlokas which talk about it. I'll just give you a brief about these shlokas. So it begins from Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto ya Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhrit Satam. So it says that Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna. So Shrinvatam, you see, hearing. The first shloka talks about Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. So when we hear Krishna Katha, when we hear the glories of Krishna, then Punya Shravana Kirtana, we develop Punya, we develop Sukriti, we develop piety. And Hridyantastoya Bhadrani, and all the impurities from our heart gets destroyed. Okay, so that is the beauty of Krishna Katha, hearing Krishna Katha from the spiritual master. Then what happens once the impurities are destroyed? So Nashta Prayasho Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So then it is said that Nashta Prayasho Bhadreshu. So Nasht means destroyed. Abhadreshu means impurities. So when all the impurities from our heart are destroyed, then how it is destroyed? Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya, by regularly hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. So when we regularly hear the glories of Krishna, then all the impurities from the heart are destroyed, and then Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So Krishna is called as Uttam Shloka. Why he is called Uttam Shloka? Because Krishna cannot be glorified by ordinary people. Ordinary people cannot even understand Krishna. So how will they glorify Krishna? So Krishna can be glorified only by Uttam. Uttam means great personalities. So that's why Krishna is called as Uttam Shloka. So then it is said, Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So once the impurities from our heart are destroyed, and we regularly, when we hear the glories of Krishna, then Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti. So our bhakti, our loving devotion to Krishna becomes Naishtiki means we become fixed up in bhakti. Because in the beginning stages, bhakti can be very, flickering. Sometimes we have that feeling of bhakti, sometimes we may not have. But Naishtiki, when we come to the stage of fixed up devotional service, then we never get shaken from that platform, right? So we become fixed up in our bhakti by regular hearing of Krishna Katha. Why? Because by regular hearing of glories of Krishna, all the impurities from our heart get destroyed. Okay. Then it is said that tada rajastamo bhava kam lobhadayaschaye chetayete ranavidhyam sthitam sattve prasidati. So tada rajastamo bhava. So what happens when our bhakti becomes fixed up? So then rajastamo bhava, as we have discussed many times, that in this material world we are all bombarded by these three modes. This material world is composed of these three modes: Sattvagun, Rajogun, and Tamogun. Out of which Rajogun and Tamogun are very, very dangerous gunas. They are dangerous modes. They destroy us, right? So it's very important to rise above Rajoguna and Tamoguna, rise above mode of passion and ignorance. So how to do that? So that is mentioned. Tada rajastamo bhava kama lobha dayaschaya. Now, because of passion and because of ignorance, kama lobha dayaschaya, we develop lust and anger. Kam and lob means greed, and because of greed, anger develops, right? So because of rajoguna, because of mode of passion and mode of ignorance, we develop lust and greed. So lust and greed is also destroyed. Why? Because mode of passion and ignorance gets destroyed. How it gets destroyed? When we regularly hear the glories of Krishna. Why we hear? Because our heart becomes pure. When heart becomes pure, then we become fixed up in bhakti. And when we become fixed up in bhakti, then what happens? So the effect of mode of passion and mode of ignorance gets destroyed, because of which lust and greed and anger gets destroyed. Okay. Chetayetayaranaviddham sthitam sattve prasidati. So when passion and ignorance gets destroyed, then we sthitam sattve, then we are promoted to the platform, or we raise ourselves to the platform of sattva guna, mode of goodness. So sthitam sattve prasidati. And when we reach the platform of goodness or mode of or sattva guna prasidati, we become happy. Then what happens? Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogatah bhagavad tattva vigyanam mukta sangasya jayate. So evam prasanna manaso. So when we become happy, prasanna manaso, when our mind becomes happy, when internally we become happy, then what happens? Bhagavad bhakti yogatah. Then Bhagavad bhakti, loving devotion to Krishna. Bhagavad tattva vigyanam, we become fixed up in loving devotion to Krishna, and we become pure devotee of Krishna and Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam. And then we are able to understand the science of God or science of Krishna. Right? So, this is how we understand the science of Krishna. This is how we can understand the science of Krishna, by Shravanam. So what is the process? When we start hearing the glories of Krishna, our heart becomes pure. When heart becomes pure, we become fixed up in our loving devotion to Krishna. When we become fixed up in loving devotion to Krishna and we keep hearing Krishna Katha, the glories of Krishna, then the effect of Rajoguna and Tamoguna get destroyed. That means mode of passion and mode of ignorance gets destroyed, because of which lust and greed get destroyed. And then we reach the platform of goodness or Sattva Guna. Once we are situated on the platform of Sattva Guna, we become happy. And in that happy state, we can understand the science of God. Right? So the signs of God can only be spoken by God. An ordinary person cannot speculate about God. We can never speculate about God. It's impossible to know Krishna by speculation, by mental speculation. No. The signs of God can only be spoken by God. And if God means Krishna, if Krishna wants, he can reveal himself to a devotee. So a devotee also knows Krishna, but a devotee knows Krishna to the extent Krishna reveals himself to that devotee, right? So a devotee also knows Krishna, but a devotee can only know Krishna to the extent that Krishna reveals himself to that devotee. Okay. So those who are pure devotees of Krishna, to a large extent they know Krishna. But yes, complete knowledge of Krishna, only Krishna can give about himself. No one can know Krishna more than Krishna, right? And we need to understand God. Why? Because human life is meant for Krishna realization. So we need to understand who is Krishna, what is his position. So all this is called signs of God. All this is called signs of bhakti. And that's what Lord Krishna is now going to tell Arjun in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is called the signs of Krishna realization or God realization. And that is the goal of human life. Now, text 2, shloka number 2. Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyamya sheshatah yajgyatva neha bhuyonyaj ज्ञातव्यम अवशिष्यते ज्ञानम तेहम सविज्ञानम इदं वक्ष्याम्यशेषतः यज्ञात्वा नेह भूयोन्यज ज्ञातव्यम अवशिष्यते. Translation. Now I shall fully disclose to you this knowledge which encompasses both the material and the transcendental, after knowing which there shall remain nothing further to be known. Now you see, what is Lord Krishna saying here? Jnanam teham savijnanam. Jnanam te aham. So Lord Krishna is telling that te aham. Te means to you and aham means me. And jnanam means knowledge. Te aham savijnanam. Savijnanam. Sa means along with. And vigyan means science. Okay. So knowledge and science, scientific knowledge, I'll give you. So Lord Krishna basically is telling that Arjun, I will give you knowledge as well as scientific knowledge. Okay. Idam vakshyami asheshataha. Idam vakshyami. Asheshataha. Asheshata means complete. So I'll give you complete knowledge about, no, I'll give you complete knowledge as well as scientific knowledge. Okay. Vakshyami means to speak. So I'll speak to you knowledge as well as scientific knowledge. Idam vakshyami asheshataha. Yaj gyatva neha bhuyo nyaj. So Lord Krishna is telling that yaj gyatva means after knowing which, na iha bhuyo anyat. Bhuyo means again. Na iha means nothing further. Gyatavyam avashishyate. Gyatavya means to be known. Avashishyate means nothing further. So basically this means that Lord Krishna is telling that after Arjun you understand this, there remains nothing further to be known. You don't need to know anything more. This is the highest. You don't need to understand anything more after this. The knowledge which I am giving you is the topmost knowledge. You see. So now Lord Krishna, how beautifully in this shloka, he's telling that Arjun, you don't need to know anything more after knowing this. Now, this knowledge cannot be attained in modern educational institutions. These modern schools and colleges which we see, they are all, this modern education system is 100 or at most 150 years old, isn't it? In India, prior to independence, so-called independence, although real independence is not this, but yeah, prior to 1947, few years before 1947. So you can say that this knowledge in India might be 100 years old. And in the whole world, it might be some 100, 150 years old. That's all. Prior to that, no one used to go and study in these so-called schools and colleges. No. So this knowledge, the knowledge that we get in these schools and colleges, modern education system, is not ageless wisdom. It's just 150-year-old. And even in this knowledge, I remember during our school days, when we were in lower grades, standard 4th or 5th, in our science textbooks, I remember we used to study some theories like Dalton's atomic theory. So first came Dalton's atomic theory, then came Rutherford experiment, then single slit experiment, many such experiments we studied. Then, so every time these experiments kept changing, and the experiment which happened later on superseded the experiment which happened earlier. That means that the earlier experiment was rejected and the latest experiment was accepted. And finally they reached Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Uncertainty principle. They didn't know. Uncertain. They don't even know what is the principle, right? So kept changing. What you read in lower standards, you don't read in higher standards. It kept changing. And even today, it keeps changing. Whatever science textbooks a person is reading nowadays, after 50 years, that whole textbook will change. Right? Why? Because it is material knowledge. What is material knowledge? Material knowledge is stored in the brain cells. Right? So material knowledge is stored in the brain cells. So in our Sanatan tradition, we burn the body. So when the body is burnt, after a person dies, how much ever great a scientist he may be, his brain cells may be filled with material knowledge of physics and chemistry. But as soon as he is burned, he dies, all that knowledge will go into mud. All that knowledge will become useless. All that knowledge will be destroyed. It will become ash or earth. It is of no use. And it's not that in the next life he'll become a scientist. No. Again, he has to begin from zero. So that is the end. That is the tendency of material knowledge, which generally is taught in modern educational institutions. But that is not the case with the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5,000 years back by Lord Krishna. And exactly the same words we are reading today, we are understanding today, we are hearing today. Sanskrit is the same, words are the same, and application is also the same. Even today, we can apply this knowledge and become blissful and make our human life successful. Right? That is why this knowledge is called timeless wisdom. It has never changed with time. It has stood the test of time. In fact, there is an English proverb which says, the more the times change, the more we need to embrace things which do not change. Right? So, this knowledge is beyond time, space, and substance. Not only that, we are understanding this knowledge. Even in the higher planetary system, the demigods, the devatas, the great saintly people who live in the upper planetary systems, they all study this knowledge and they all get benefited from this knowledge. This knowledge is universal wisdom and timeless wisdom. It is beyond time, space, and substance. Whatever you find in the Vedic scriptures, you will find in the Gita. But there are many things in the Bhagavad Gita that you won't find in any of the Vedic scriptures. That is the standard of the Bhagavad Gita. Right? So that's why it is called knowledge par excellence. Param Jnanam. This is the greatest knowledge and nothing can surpass this knowledge. And this is timeless and ageless wisdom. Even though a person may read this or may try to understand this Bhagavad Gita 1,000 years from today, or 10,000 years from today, or 1,000,000 years from today, still he will get the same benefit. Right? So that is the beauty, that is the standard of the Bhagavad Gita. Unfortunately, nowadays people have made it a Hindu scripture. No. Has Krishna ever in the Bhagavad Gita has said that he is a Hindu god? No. In fact, in the 15th chapter, Krishna says in the 7th shloka that Mame Vansho Jeev Loke, every living entity is my part and parcel, not only human beings, every living entity, animals, beasts, birds, insects, trees, plants, human beings, they are all part and parcel of Krishna. So Krishna is not a Hindu god or a human god. Krishna is God for everyone. He is the supreme personality of Godhead, and not only for earthly planet, he is the supreme personality of Godhead for the whole universe. Right? So, and he has spoken the Bhagavad Gita. So that's why this is knowledge par excellence. Nothing can surpass this knowledge. And that's why you see in the shloka, Lord Krishna is saying, Gyatavam avashishyate, that Arjun, after knowing this, nothing further remains to be known. You don't need to know anything more. Knowledge ends here. Knowledge ends. This is the end of knowledge. This is the divine wisdom where everything rests. Now text 3, shloka number 3. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatataamapi siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tatvatah. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatataamapi siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tatvatah. Translation: out of many thousands among human beings, hardly one may endeavor for perfection. And out of many thousands who have attained perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Now you see. Because the goal of all the Vedic scriptures is to know Krishna. That is the only purpose. You see, whole world is running after energies of Krishna. Whatever we see, these buildings, money, matter, cars, aeroplanes, spacecrafts, millions and billions of planets, galaxies, universes, these are all tiny energies of Krishna. Tiny. These are all insignificant fraction of Krishna's energy. And people are running after Krishna's energy. That is why they are called less intelligent in the Vedic scriptures. Why? Why to run after energy? We should try to develop relationship with the proprietor of these energies, Krishna. We should try to develop relationship with the energetic Krishna. All energies belong to him. Why to run after energies? Right? So it's very important to understand Krishna, know him. And once we know him, we cannot help but will fall in love with him. When we know him, we will automatically develop attachment to him. We'll fall in love with him because we are naturally lovers of Krishna. Our love we have forgotten. So we'll revive that love. So what Bhagavad Gita does, when we hear from the spiritual master, what happens? Our love for Krishna gets awakened, rekindled. We are naturally lovers of Krishna. It's natural for us. Spirit soul is Krishna's part and parcel. We are all part and parcel of Krishna and natural lovers of Krishna. But as of now, because of material covering, that love has become covered. Right? So that's what Lord Krishna is telling here, that Manushyanam Sahasreshu. Manushyanam means out of many human beings. Sahasreshu means 1,000. 1,000. Kaschid yatati siddhai. Kaschid means hardly one. And yatati means to endeavor. Right? So kaschid yatati siddhai. Siddhai means siddhi actually means success or perfection. Okay. So Lord Krishna is telling here that out of many thousands of human beings, hardly one human being will endeavor for perfection. Out of many thousands. Right? Manushyanam Sahasreshu means out of many thousands of human beings, hardly one person will endeavor for perfection of human life. Okay. Now, 1 in 1,000 will endeavor for perfection. Will everyone attain perfection? No. So that's what Krishna says in the next part of the shloka. You see, yatatam api siddhanam. So then he goes on to say that yatatam api siddhanam. So 1 in 1,000 will endeavor for perfection. And out of many thousands of such people, one will actually attain perfection. Right? And out of many who have attained perfection, hardly one will, you see, what is he saying? Kaschin mam vetti tatvatah. Vetti means to know. Okay. And tatvatah means in truth. So Lord Krishna is telling that out of many thousands of people who endeavor for perfection, hardly one attains perfection. And out of many of those people, many people will attain perfection, but amongst them, hardly one knows me in truth. Now, let us do our mathematical calculation based on the figure given here by Lord Shri Krishna. So, what is Lord Krishna saying here? Let us do our mathematical calculation. So, Lord Krishna is telling that out of many thousands of people, one will endeavor for perfection. That means 1 in 1,000. So that segregation already has happened. That 1 in 1,000 will endeavor or try to attain perfection. Now, out of many thousand among those will actually attain perfection. So 1,000 into 1,000, how much it becomes? 1 million or 10 lakhs. Okay. So out of 1 million people, hardly one will attain perfection. Okay. And out of many those who have attained perfection, hardly one will know me in truth. That means amongst many millions of people, hardly one person will know Krishna in truth. Now, what is the population of this world? Human beings, because only humans can understand God. So, how many humans are there in this world? According to some people or some agencies who do this calculation, they say that there are around 7 billion people in this world. Now, 1 billion is equal to 1000 million. Okay. And 7 billion means 7,000 million. Okay. So, out of many million, so you can say that around out of 3 or 4 million person, or say 2.5 million person, one person will know Krishna. Out of 2.5 million, one person will know Krishna. Now you divide 7 billion by 2.5 million. It comes to around 2,800 people, 2,800 people. Okay. So you can say that, and in Kali Yuga, now this is age of Kali Yuga, so in this number will reduce even more, because this Lord Krishna is talking about 5,000 years back. Now things have degraded more today. So today this number will be very less. So very few people on earth actually know Krishna. Right? So many people try to know Krishna by trying to watch these TV serials, TV series. Some people, I remember few months or few years back, some TV series used to come on TV, and people used to watch that and they'll get confused. Why? Because a person who is making this TV series, he's making it for money, he's making it for earning money. He will show all nonsense. He will never show the truth because he does not know the truth. Right? So he does not know who is God. If he would know who is God, he would be a pure devotee, isn't it? So those who are making TV serials, they are not pure devotees. They don't know who is Krishna. They don't know who is Radharani. So what they will tell about Radharani and Krishna in these TV series, all nonsense they will show. People watch all that nonsense and then they get confused. So I always say, never ever watch these nonsensical TV serials. They only show rubbish about Krishna and Radharani. No one can understand Krishna and Radharani except those who are pure devotees. Right? So we can understand Krishna only from a person who knows Krishna. Krishna can be understood only by hearing from Guru. So we should stop watching these nonsensical TV serials because they only show rubbish about Krishna and Radharani. So why? Because here Krishna is saying, there are many, many millions of people, hardly one will know me in truth. Right? So not easy to know Krishna. But yes, the goal of human life is to know Krishna. Although it's not easy to know Krishna, but the goal of human life is to know Krishna. Right? So that is the purpose of human life. So that's what Lord Krishna is saying here. So we'll stop here. We'll continue our discussion in the next session from the 4th shloka of the 7th chapter. The 7th chapter is very, very special. So you all will love it. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.